Welcome to the N1G Podcast. I am your host, Solex Cross, and today I'm joined by Symes.
Hello, Symes here.
And Honornite.
Hi there.
These are two very popular champions from former BloodMoons, multiple BloodMoons tournaments actually, and they're going to be with us today. Before we get into the business with this week's BloodMoon, I wanted to actually talk about a little bit of news that's been coming up recently. We just found out that EVO Japan will be having a side event for MegaMan BloodMoon 6 with patch cards enabled. I believe it's going to be a double elimination 32-player bracket. And it's, of course, going to have to be first come, first serve for these side events at an EVO level. But it's still really cool that this is something that's happening. And I hope there's a stream for it so we can tune in from over here in the West or tune in from anywhere around the world, hopefully, right? Support your Mega Man, support BloodMoon. That's what we want. And, of course, it's going to be on the Legacy Collection. So that's really cool. And I'm happy for them that they're doing that. Also, I have a bit of a surprise for today's podcast. We will be playing a game. Now, this game is going to be relatively simple. Now, the name of the game is Guess That Battle Chip.
Oh boy.
So exactly as it sounds, I'm going to read the description to a battle chip. Now, it's going to be either Symes or Honornite. Whoever hits the buzzer, can somebody hit the buzzer for me so we can know what it sounds like? Okay, I said one person, but we'll take it, you know. All right, but whoever hits the buzzer first will be allowed to answer. I'll give you 5 seconds to answer the question. If you fail, I will defer the question to be answered to the other person. And if neither of you get it within that time frame, then we move on to a different battle chip, and maybe you guys get it next time. But are you guys ready?
Sounds good to me. What's on the line?
On the line? Bragging rights, of course. Oh, come on, man.
Okay. So we're keeping score then, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the score.
Right.
So it's going to be the first to 3, actually. So the first person to get 3 correct answers is going to be the winner.
All right. Just like a grand final.
All right. You ready, Symes?
Yeah, I'm ready. Legs go.
All right. Now, the first one is going to be... Oh, I got to make this a hard one. Okay, this one. Bomb cracks 3 squares ahead. Yeah, I don't know, right? Yeah.
Are these just from BN6 or is it from all?
No, all the BNs.
Which fashion disadvantage?
Good luck. All right. What is it, Symes?
Is it a crack bomb?
It is crack bomb. All right, 1 point for Symes.
Oh no! So you set me up for failure.
That's a 1 point for Symes. All right, here we go. Next one. Maybe this one you'll get. I don't know. We're gonna see. You have to let me finish. You can't cut me off with the buzzer. All right.
Oh, it's not like Jeopardy. Okay.
7 shot to pierce 1 panel. Oh, Symes. All right. So for real quick, for the people at home, I see the green flashing of who pushes the button first, thanks to Discord soundboard. So that's how I know Symes is hitting the button first. All right, Symes, what's the answer?
Is it a Vulcan 3?
Oh my goodness.
Wait, no, it's. I don't know. That's which game? Which Vulcan game? Because BN6 is 5 shots.
Exactly.
I guess BN4 and 5.
This one is from BN4, correct?
No. I'm about to get 3-0'd. Is there a bracket reset?
There is no bracket reset. Okay. Remember, you have to let me finish, all right? This is yeah, if you don't get this on tonight, I don't know what to tell you, my brother.
Oh no.
Throws a bomb 3 squares ahead.
It's Black Bomb, right?
It is not the black bomb.
What?
So,
So, do I get to steal now?
you get to steal.
No, don't steal.
So, throws a bomb 3 squares ahead, right?
I hope you're not looking these up, Symes.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
All right.
How would I have looked up the BN4 and 5?
I don't know. You're a magician. I don't know. You tell me. Wait, what's your answer?
I'm sorry, Honornite. It's gotta be mini bomb.
It is not mini bomb.
What? What?
What? Oh, it goes back to me now, like volleyball. Okay,
yes.
Okay. We're gonna go with okay. What other throwables are there? Energy bomb.
Yes. That's one for Honornite.
Yes.
Symes, you made the mistake. Mini bomb is throw a mini bomb 3 squares ahead.
That is so stupid.
I almost said bug bomb because I like bug bomb, but I know that that's not what the description is for it.
All right, here we go. You guys ready?
All right, I'm ready.
All right. There's 2 answers for this next one.
Mm-hmm.
Just need to give me one. Cuts enemy in front range 3. That was Honornite. I saw Honornite. No, I saw Honornite flash first. I'm watching it. I saw Honornite flash first. All right, Honor.
It's cuts enemy in front range 3. I'm gonna go with wide blade.
It is wide blade. The other answer was wide sword as well. So this is a tiebreaker now. I gotta make it really hard.
Okay, so I'm just gonna get this one.
Oh, you know what? I think Symes might get this one. I pre-selected these before we kind of like started, so.
All right. Maybe my knowledge will.
Are you guys ready?
Randomly extend there.
This is gonna. I'll be so surprised if you get this on the man. I'm sorry. For the tiebreaker, fire with a 1-panel blast. Symes?
Fire with a 1-panel blast.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Well, you got 5 seconds.
Oh!
I'm playing to the timer.
What is it? Honornite? Honornite, you're losing your time.
Fireline.
It's not Iron Mine. Oh no. Okay, Symes, it's back on you.
So fire with a 1 square blast. Oh, heat shot.
Oh, so close. It's back on you.
Wait. Heat cross.
It's not. You're back. No, Symes. Symes, no. Symes.
Is it lava cannon?
It's not lava cannon either. It's on you, Honornite. Y'all, I knew this would be hard. I didn't know it was gonna be this hard.
Oh my goodness! You think I use fire chips?
That's 5 seconds.
Zap ring.
Zap ring is definitely not right. I mean, electricity can generate heat. Symes is back on you.
Oh, is it from BN1? Is
yes.
From heater?
Yes, or heat spread. I would have took too.
Heat spread? Heat spread has that description?
Yeah, it's fire with panel. Fire with a 1-panel blast. Yes, is heater.
But it's AOE. That's not 1 panel.
Exactly. That's BN1 for you.
Terrible description.
Oh my goodness. Well, at least even though I was doing some gimmies, Symes is the quiz king. So.
Yeah, so true, so true. It's really funny because these descriptions of these chips have nothing to do with what the chip actually does most of the time. There's some that you will always guess, like pay attention. A nice big cannon. That
Oh,
you
that
got,
one's a classic.
yeah. What is
Is
it?
that tin cannon?
You see that? What is it, Symes?
And BN1, it's just a cannon, a nice big
Yeah,
cannon. It's so
it's
good. It
actually
does
there's
40
multiple
damage.
answers for it. It's cannon, it's high cannon, and it's mega cannon as well.
That's really their description. A nice big
A
cannon.
nice big cannon, but that's from Battle Network 1. In the other
Oh
Battle
my
Network games,
gosh.
they ended up changing it to cannon to attack one enemy. And that's also
Okay.
for the whole series. So
Okay. Alright.
My favorite is the description for bodyguard in 4.
what's the description for bodyguard?
In 4, it's really it's like assassin sneak into enemy.
Oh,
There's none of that happens in first. Oh man. Okay, first of all, the only time you ever see MegaMan like throwing the stars himself, I believe, is Battle Network 3. And even for the
Yeah,
program
I think
advance, I don't
so.
even think he does. I think it like a random dust cloud above you just starts firing out shurikens for the program advance. I might be wrong though.
No, you're right. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's
You got
really
busted.
funny. Yeah, these chip descriptions are awful, dude. It just shows you the times, yo. He said, "Take cannon" with the utmost amount of confidence. That was hilarious.
It's a big cannon.
I agree. I didn't say the logic is there. You know what I'm saying? You're not wrong. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, that was a lot of fun. But we're gonna move on now. We're gonna move on to the actual main content of today's topic, which is going to be talking about the Blood Moon Cycle 4, number 1. This is our first Blood Moon of the year, which is awesome. Yeah. But you know what, Symes, why don't you tell us a little bit about Blood Moon? What is Blood Moon?
Yeah, so we first started NewMoon back in 2019. But the thing about NewMoon is it's designed to be like very accessible for new players, right? So even in most of the standard New Moons, they're like you're not expected to finish all your matches. You can just play it whenever you want during the week. And like veteran players will usually bring like very experimental folders like to try out like some crazy gimmick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Blood Moon is our more competitive version of New Moon. So in that one, it has a 2-week round robin where players are expected to try and play as many matches as possible, and then we go into a top 8 bracket.
Yeah.
And so in Blood Moon, you'll usually have players bringing like some of their strongest folders instead of like
Yes.
more experimental stuff.
So if you're really looking to get a nice snapshot or understanding of what the meta is, right? And I use brackets because meta is transformative. It flows in ways like a normal bracket. Like there's no set real meta, but there's a trend that goes on, right? And based on that trend, you formulate a decision on what you build and such like that. That's like every other game too, right? For instance, in Smash Bros. Right now, I think Corrin has soared in the brackets, right? In Smash Ultimate specifically speaking, because he has a good matchup or she has a good matchup versus Villager. So not Villager, excuse me, versus Steve. I always say Villager for him for whatever reason, but Steve is a really powerful character in Smash Ultimate. So Corrin with a good matchup against him is naturally going to be a good character to choose, right? So it's something like that in this game here. There's going to be certain strategies that become very dominant or very, very well used or most used. So people will develop strategies with that kind of setup in mind and try to develop something around that. So Blood Moon's perfect for looking at those kinds of snapshots if you really want to deep dive into what's good and what's happening currently, right? And that's why I think it's really interesting to look at a few builds from players who had entered the most recent Blood Moon and see what people have been doing for the week. Maybe even look at a couple of records to see how well they're doing with said folders, and we go from there, right? So I believe Honornite, you pulled up a list that you wanted to check out. What list did you bring today?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe taking a look at A for Average's build. It's pretty unique for a build that's going to enter Blood Moon because it has specifically an NPC piece that I guess the P in NPC is piece. Anyways, that's not really used often in Body Pack.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at it now too. That's really interesting. And
Mhm.
I always like to point out that body pack actually kind of looks like a T-posing body. Like, which is really ironic.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
I think that's definitely intentional.
yeah, that's gotta be right. But
Oh,
yeah.
uncompressed body pack is really funny too, because it looks like it gets a little like feet.
Oh,
Oh, wait, what?
wait,
Oh
that's
my gosh,
adorable.
you're right. Wow.
That's adorable.
I just sneezed. All right.
Oh man, they were cooking.
Yeah, that's crazy. They were really cooking for that one. I didn't even realize that it was like that, yo. That's hilarious. But why give such a tiny little head? I guess you have to be practical about the size, right? I don't know. Yeah, like, it's already a really big piece. Why make it bigger or
Yeah,
whatever?
exactly.
But what does Body Pack do?
All right. Well, Body Pack it gives you a lot of programs all packed into one, hence the pack
Ah,
pseudonym. Yeah.
yeah,
It
yeah.
gives you air shoes, float shoes, super armor, undershirt, and does it give shield signs? I can't recall.
I
No, I
I
think
don't
it's
think it
just
does.
those. It's just those
Four
four. Yeah, just
programs,
the
yeah.
Oh,
Omni shoes, super armor, and undershirt, and it
that's
saves a
unfortunate.
whole one square over using them individually.
Yeah,
So
and but
no, my bad. No, you go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say that's Body Pack's biggest flaw is that it only saves one spot over using the program parts individually. But we talked about the shape being, funny and all that. But as funny as it is, it's also extremely unoptimal because as you can see in the top, oh, sorry, you guys can't see, but um, and for Average's build, the way that Body Pack is, there's two empty spaces that aren't being used. So if those two spaces aren't being used, that's like two more spaces that the program is taking up, and now it's taking up more space than what the individual parts would use.
So I'm actually looking at it too. I pulled up the list so that way we all have access to it. And I'm sure somewhere around here or there, Sal would go and help us out and put the, the list so everyone that's watching can see. But yeah, we're all taking a look at the list right now, and I see exactly what you're talking about, and again, I definitely empathize with the idea that it's unoptimal because it only saves, like Simon said, one square. So you're not really gaining too much from it.
Mhm.
But to have them all condensed into one side or one portion of the Navicus could be optimal, right? And at the end of the day, these Navicusts, right? Even though something might be unoptimal or not necessarily the best, it doesn't mean you won't win with it, right? As long as you perform well in the match, whatever you bring to the table, you can do well with, right? But you have to work a little harder sometimes. But
Yeah.
I think despite losing the one square, you could do some decent work with something like Buddy Pack. I think my biggest issue is that it takes up 4 spaces on the Navi cust in this cust specifically. I don't know if that
Mhm.
can be optimizedly spaced a little bit better to make it a little more form factor. What do you guys think?
Well, you kind of have to consider that it's technically already four programs. So even though it's taking up four spaces on the command line, that's just, like what would normally happen with four programs. So even
That's
though
true.
it is taking up all that space, it's technically not in a weird roundabout way, because if you're trying to get it so that such that you're not taking up as much space, which I think actually can you even do that? Well, assuming that you could, I feel like it would take up so much space of the outside edges that you're not going to be able to put in your plus parts such as HP and attack parts.
What do you think about this build, Symes?
Yeah. Yeah. Body pack is as we could see, it's a very bulky program, but definitely it gives you that super armor, which is pretty nice. We can see the rest of this cust. We've got the bugged custom 2, also the HP 300, and then the Okay, yeah, that's a 4 attack plus 1s to give us attack 5, but the problem with a body pack taking up all that space, we do only have the 300 HP, which is actually very low.
Now, I'm glad you brought up HP because I feel like right now, the way our meta has developed, everyone's doing a lot. People were doing a lot of damage before. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but the damage threshold that you need to be able to survive nowadays is much, much higher, which is why Chunk Crust has been doing really well. And I feel like it's been the go-to build for a lot of people because you can fit extra HP, like a minimum of 1800 or even upwards of 22 or 2100, and still get attack max and still get some custom and still get some good value, although you don't have shoes, right? So the biggest thing that this has is that it has Omni shoes, which is pretty decent. But is it worth all of that HP is what I'm thinking.
Well, with a build like this, you definitely need to craft your folder around the fact that you have these advantages, such as having air shoes and float shoes. And one thing that stands out to me about Afravage's build is the fact that they have the double get-in, which is obviously really powerful with air shoes, but also having access to that float shoes in the cases of, let's say, the opponent has ice seeds or aqua dragons, or just starting off with an ice stage, which can be very awkward to play with at
Yeah,
times because you're not being able to
yeah.
center. Having access to those float shoes allows you to be a lot more flexible defensively
Mm-hmm.
and offensively with your chips. So while players are leaning more towards these high HP builds, the issue with those builds is that you're giving up the flexibility of movement. So you can kind of think of the air shoes and float shoes as a way to increase your HP, effective HP in a way, because you're avoiding damage that you wouldn't have taken because you have those program parts.
I definitely agree with that. Times, do you have any other thoughts about this cast personally?
Um, I mean, yeah, it's very interesting. I do know that before the tournament, A4 Average did say that they were planning on trying to bring a body pack and make Top Cut with it. So we'll have to see if they're able to do that. Looking at the folder, actually, I'm surprised that they have no recovs with such low HP, but instead they're going for like the full Tengu cross setups with the 5 area grab, 3 panel grab, and then 2 get-ons like you mentioned earlier.
Now, here's the thing. What Nereth has showed us before is that you can really, really get a ton of value out of that cross, Tengu cross, right? So what I'm thinking is, as long as you're dishing out tons of damage with that cross, either in the form of charge shots, because it doesn't cost flashing, it applies a big push, you deal with barriers with it. You also have to be left to deal with barriers on a really short notice. And of course, the Beast Out, or rather the Beast Cross version of Tengu is also really good because that Beast Charge is insanely powerful, right? But I like that you pointed out the lower HP count in the folder. Now, what I would usually think of in order to circumvent this low amount of HP in the cust, I would expect almost naturally to say, okay, we run the 2 recover 300s, put in the barrier 200, maybe even 1 or 2 barrier 100s, and that's a decent amount of extra HP, right? In those chips alone, just to counteract the lower HP you have in your Navi cust. But we don't see any of that, which is really interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure. I actually, the reason I brought this setup up was because when I played A for Average, and going into the set, I was thinking, oh, it's a body pack build, you know. I just gotta go burst them down because A for Average has only 1300 HP, and I got this. But A for Average was able to put up a lot of pressure because even though the A for Average didn't bring those recoveries to offset the downsides of having a low HP, what A for Average did instead was put on the pressure. So I was on the defensive the entire time. So it kind of opened my eyes to the possibility of, at the very least, air shoes on on falls are seeing having a lot of value that I didn't expect it to have.
That's something we don't see very often too, which is actually really interesting that you bring that up because not a lot of people run shoes of any kind in a Falzar setup, right? And that's sometimes you see float shoes. Sometimes, very rarely, you'll see someone pull out the float shoes and do decently with that. But the fact that you have Omni shoes from the jump is really, really good. Like, it's not bad. I mean, I still feel like you're a little low on defense, but that's kind of the nature of these lower HP builds. At this point, you don't have the luxury to worry about defense. You need to fill your folder with as much damage as possible so that way you can maintain pressure, maintain control of the matchup.
Definitely. And one final thing that's quite interesting about the build is that cute little raccoon in there. I'm not entirely certain what A for average is going for with that, but my thoughts on that is that it's probably used to maybe put it in the back row so to limit the opponent's movement once they get a roll lock, or maybe to somehow place it onto uh, panels that they capture so that uh, Grab Revenge or Grab Banish or even Judge Man don't return the area after it's done so, because you own an object on that panel, which is a neat little tech. Um, it's I don't know how powerful it is generally. Rock Cube has a bit more HP than some of the other objects that are able to do that, so it does have that niche. But it's just something interesting to consider about objects in general.
I'm actually really happy you brought that up too, because if you really think about it, that's tech from Battle Network 3. That's from way back tech. And the fact that you use the word capture it just really shows you it's Battle Network 3 tech, because that's what we were doing with Rook, right? Rook had so much HP. It didn't do anything. It didn't paralyze the enemy from moving like Timpani or make you invincible. But it was a lot of HP on that Rook, right? So I'm gonna just put that right there and chill. 200 is a lot of value in terms of Battle Network 6. You either put chips into that to get rid of it, or you're using charge shots, which is time. And anything that forces your opponent to do an option is good in my opinion, right? Even if it forces them to go dust. Well, now they're in dust, right? So now I know how to fight against that or how to counter that. Forcing an option is always good. And I think it's interesting, especially after last week, after you brought all those Rocky. Maybe he was like, well, I want to do that.
Hey, if I inspired A for average, that's awesome. But
Yeah,
if they jump on their own, then kudos to them as well.
all right, let's move on along. And I believe, Symes, you wanted to talk about another setup as well.
Yeah, so this is I guess pretty boring, but I was just gonna go over my own setup from this cycle.
Oh no, that's not boring. That's excellent. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it is pretty different from a lot of the other setups I've run lately. Cause yeah, if we can pull this one up now, I've gone back to just the classic good old Buster Cust.
I'm actually really happy you brought this cuss back. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this is just a very solid Gregor Cust from back in the day. So we got the bug stop. I of course put my bug stop in the top left.
You criminal.
And then yeah, to go along with that, we've got the 1500 HP, attack max, charge max, super armor, cust one, undershirt, and air shoes. Also rush.
Very important, that rush piece. Very important.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, what made you choose the standard? I know it's the Buster Cust, like, but I really feel like this is the golden standard Gregor Cust, right? I feel like this has everything that a Gregor really wants. And tell us why you went with this Cust.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people have been going for like lots of hole spam lately, either if, with get on cheese, but also just like Magnum, Electragon, Meteor Knuckles. So I just felt like going back and having that air shoes would be pretty nice. And it also, if we look in my folder, it lets me actually play Get On as well instead of having to just play like panel returns to deal with the opponent's holes.
So the reason why holes are so prevalent is because being able to limit your opponent's movement is just always going to be an amazing option. Let me break these panels up, force my opponent into a corner, and now I have full control of the map, even without area grabs, right? So it's just a very oppressive chip, especially if you combine it with something like Tango Cross. Pull them forward, and now they're stuck in that front row because they can't retreat, right? Now, for people who have air shoes in their custs, so for this cust, there's air shoes in it, and for Average's cust, for instance, that we just went over, he had air shoes and float shoes. Now, the biggest bane to that would be uninstall. And do you want to tell us a little bit about uninstall, Honornite?
Yeah, sure. Uninstall is a chip that you can place after a non-dimming attack chip, and what it does is it gives that attack chip the effect to remove certain programs from the opponent's Navicust if it hits. And if I recall correctly, the programs that it removes are both the shoes, so air and float shoes, super armor, and then any be left ability, which would be shield, anti-magic, or reflect.
Very powerful chip, very, very oppressive if you are hit by it, right? Now,
Yep.
what I find interesting about this build is it actually plays one less anti-damage than normal, as you're only playing the 2 anti-damages here, but it also doesn't have a barrier outside of Life Aura. Oh, you remembered Life Aura, so that's good. That's a good sign.
Oh, the call out.
Wow.
But yeah. So tell us about your defensive choices, or did you have any other plans in mind?
Yeah, so the kind of a slightly spicy experimental thing about this one is you might want to look at the recovs I have, Soul.
Yes, tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm going for the full Recov 1000 tech with the 2 Recov 300s and also 2 Recov 200s in Q code.
Now, what's really ironic is that yes, it is taking 4 chips out of your folder to have that extra 1,000 HP on top of the 1,500 you start with, right? But recall that in earlier Battle Network games, Battle Network 4 and Battle Network 5, that was one chip. Yeah, that was all in one chip. And in 4, you can get like 5 of those things for the Recover 1000. But in Battle Network 6, it's a much better, much more balanced game, much more fair, right? So we used 4 slots for that, and that's still a ton of value. That's how insanely powerful having more HP is. This HP stacking alone could probably force more timeouts, right? You can go to turn 15 very easily with all that extra HP. That's effectively 2,500. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
what
was
the
initially thinking of actually trying the Recov 1000 with the chalk cost to just have like a absolute Goliath 3200. But I was talking actually with Soup a while ago, and it was like, yeah, it could be interesting actually trying it like with a lower HP cost, but one that has air shoes.
So I actually kind of agree with this logic, right? And the reason why is because you already have a lot of HP. So having more HP is kind of redundant in the cust, right? So your folder really wants to complement the Navi cust and vice versa, right? So if you just have a bunch of HP in your Navi cust and then you just put a bunch of HP in your folder, you're kind of like, yeah, you're gonna survive. And maybe you can do even some damage with the Gregor crosses, but what is it really doing for you, right? But in this way, you still have a nice chunky lot of HP with 2,500. And now I have air shoes too. And now I have all this other extra value too, like rush even, or no bugs even, right? So now my damage is never going to be impeded. I might not have Buster Bug. We'll get into that later. But I still have all this value and the HP to back it up. And you're still playing Gregar, so you're going to have access to the same charge shots and everything. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your folder and what made you choose something like, maybe let's talk about those grab chips.
Yeah, so apart from the Recuv 200s, I'd say this is a pretty standard Air Shoes Gregor folder. We got the Gundel Soul 3 to go with Q-Force. Just a Machine Gun 1 asterisk, because Dust Cross Hate is always good. It breaks their traps, including anti-Recuv. And then, yes, I got the 4 area grabs and also just the 1 extra panel grab. And that's just to help get more value out of Slash Cross, and also for defensive usage and trying to block the opponent's area grabs.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Now, I actually like that a lot because if your opponent goes for area grab and you TFC or respond with panel grab, the panel grab will take whatever row you're in, that one panel, but area grab can't go over that, right? So it will forcibly take the one panel that you just took. So you trade positively in terms of area value, right? It's not like Metagel from way back in the game day where it just go ahead and takes your panels no matter where it is, and it'll take as much as it can, right? So again, going back to that fairness aspect of Boundary 6, not that Metagel is fair in older games per se, but it can be pretty gross because you can run 4 Metagels and like 4 area grabs, and it's a lot of area control.
Yeah, the counter to Metal Gel actually that area grab has over it is that Metal Gel can't grab holes. It can't grab broken panels, whereas area grab can.
That's true.
Hmm.
That's true. And yeah, I do agree where this is mostly standard, but one thing we haven't been seeing a whole lot of recently is slow gauge in Gregor builds. For some reason, I feel like a lot of people have been dropping gauges from their folders. And I think that's mostly during new moons that I've noticed it the most. So I find it very interesting that in the new moon, in the blood moon, that we do see these gauge controls coming back.
Yeah, I did actually end up almost going with only 1 slow gauge. I put the second one in my folder like last minute. I just think you could get so much pressure with slow gauge and Gregor crosses. Like obviously, especially slash cross, but like even just like slow gauge or race cross. And actually with air shoes, charge cross with the charge tackle no longer being blocked by holes is also like extremely threatening, especially if you can get some area with that. So I just figured having the slow gauges would be a good fit to go along with the rest of the build.
Yeah, I think I like that a lot. I think these are really solid choices. Why did you bring Machine Gun 1 star?
Yeah, just to because dealing with having something to threaten Dust Egg is always nice, and also just being able to deal with traps like anti-recuv, anti-navi.
All right, that's
You can
good.
also always go for machine guns. Very good at fishing for cheeky counter hits.
Yeah, I like that too, especially with Element Man SP in your folder too. Can you imagine a full synchro Element Man SP? Yeah, that's not something you really want to deal with. Actually, now that you say that, there was a point in time I remember, like a few years ago, that somehow we believed that Machine Gun 1, Machine Gun 2, and Machine Gun 3 all had different traveling speeds, or like different speeds at what they hit the opponent. Like for some reason, we just thought, oh yeah, Machine Gun 1 is just slower for some reason. And I kind of want to blame VBA and Hamachi for that. That's kind of what I want to do.
You're triggering me, Soul.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Because I was the one who finally went ahead and did the frame counts to make sure that all the mock guns had the same speeds, and even after I disproved it, people were still saying it. So
I guess that's also because for most other chips that is true. Like with I think both Bubble Star and Risky Honey, the V1 version moves
mhm,
slower, and the
Yes,
V3
yes,
is faster. So machine guns actually kind of like the exception to the rule with them all being the same speed.
yes.
yeah,
Which is really weird, right? But I think I want to say it's intentional because they knew that defenses were going to be really strong. Especially, they were strong in older Boundary games, but anti-damage wasn't overbearing or widely used because, yeah, you could TFC to block, but if you just used it in neutral, any kind of P shot, as long as you did any kind of damage, the anti-damage went away. But in this game, it stayed at 10, so you needed a different kind of way to interact with defenses to be able to get your damage through. And I think that's why the machine gun ones are like they are. I mean, I could be wrong, right? It could be an accident, right? This is why Elect Pulse 2 doesn't have the frame data it does from Boundary 6, the GBA version, versus the Legacy Collection. They changed it and they matched it up with the other Elect Pulses, right? Which is a weird choice for me personally, but that's something they did. Maybe it was an oversight, but then again, maybe it wasn't, right? Because in Legacy Collection, the machine guns still maintain the same amount of speed between all three. So it's really interesting to think about it in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like getting stuff in game, I know that machine gun in asterisk code is also like very rare to
Oh yeah,
get, right? Like
yeah,
it's when
yeah,
you're just fighting like the gunner viruses, you'd usually get it in like A code or something, not
yes.
in a asterisk.
I actually forgot how you got Machine Gun 1 star. I think you have to
Might
do.
be old from like the super chip trader or something.
Oh, I was thinking Virus Battle or some. Oh no, Virus Battler is for Windrack, right? Windrack Star. Yeah, that makes sense. I think it is a chip trade option that you have to try and go for, which is really hard to do because it's not guaranteed. It's all RNG, so you could be there for days on end, and there's no exact science to how rare the chips are depending on what drops, and there's no frame data on that. I don't think anyone's actually spent the time to look into how often you will actually get that chip specifically, but it's got to be a
Yeah,
lot, right?
the TREZ has like all the drop rates for the chip traders and stuff.
Shout out to TREZ, they are amazing over there. Yeah. Anyway, yes, leading to our final segment today, we're going to be talking a little bit about staples. Now, what I define as a staple is a resource that is just very valuable and always provides you with some kind of win condition or some kind of monetary use that's just always useful. However, you don't necessarily have to have it in your folder, but it's something you strongly should advise that is played or in the Navicast even. Something that you strongly advise that you should have in their Navicast or in your folder, at least in terms of Boundary 6. Staples look different in all other kinds of games, but I want to talk about what staples are in Battle Network 6. Let's start with Honornite. We haven't heard from you in a little bit.
yeah, sure. So the way I've used staples in BN6 is that they're they're either programs or chips that will always provide guaranteed value.
Right.
And because they provide guaranteed value, it's almost it feels bad to cut them from a build. And for newer players out there, I recommend running all the staples because once you understand how to use those staples,
Yes.
then you can cut them because then you understand what you're losing out on.
Yes. Yes. I
Um,
definitely agree.
yeah, so that's kind of how I view staples, and as a player, I actually never run less than what is I guess considered the standard staples.
Mm-hmm.
I never cut below 5 navies. I never cut below 3 invis, 3 anti-damage. I always bring my life war. Always bring 1 win rack, um, and I always bring a giga, and that's just what's worked for me. And I know I can cut those, but I also know the value behind them and why they should be there.
Now, let's actually bring that up because you said you always run your 5 megas, right? Mega chips are just insanely valuable. They do tons of damage. If not, then they provide such awesome utility that it's you can't not play them, right? And of course, I'm thinking of Erase Man, Element Man, and Judge Man Star. Those are just such powerful chips in this metagame that they will never not be used. They might as well be Landorus Therian for the Pokemon player, or Pot of Greed for the Yu-Gi-Oh player if it was legal. Like you just don't not play that, right? So I do know a player or a few players who actually don't max out on their mega slots, but still see wild success. I would even say you're one of your many rivals, or probably your main rival at this point, Player Zero. I've seen him walk into tournaments with 3 or even 4 mega chips and just we're at number 1 seed. We're winning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that just goes to show you that yes, you can run these things, and you probably should run it at 5, right? Because it just doesn't make logical sense not to run your 5 megas if you have 5 available to you. But it can be done if you know what you're doing. And this is why we encourage players who are newer to the game to familiarize yourself with each staple and run each staple if you can, depending on the build, of course. So that way you can familiarize yourself with these options and know when you want to cut something or add something else or do something different. Let's start talking about examples of staples, like specific chips. And we'll go one by one from each of us until we just see that we've got the general idea. So starting with Symes, what is a strong staple chip that you just feel like should be in every folder or should be played or considered?
Yeah, I'd probably for staple chips, I'd have to go with Windwreck.
Yeah, I feel like that is the one chip you just can't not play. Even if you're a 1,000 player, you can't not play a wind rack. But why do you say that, Symes?
Because life aura's in the game.
Yeah. So what does wind rack do?
So in BN6, this was actually already sort of a thing in 5, but only on specific chips.
Yeah.
But in 6, all wind effects remove barriers and auras. And Windwreck, it obviously you slap the column ahead of you with wide sword range, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also sends an invisible wind gust down the entire field, which will remove any life aura or barrier the opponent has up.
So the wind gusts are usually visible. You can see examples of them, like for Tengu B left. He does a kind of like pulling effect with winds coming from the other side. That's what the wind hitbox usually looks like. But for the wind rack or certain wind chips, those hitboxes are invisible. So that gust goes down the entire row on each row, regardless of your positioning, and will always do wind damage or gust away a barrier, right? And it's not just useful for getting rid of barriers. What's another use for a wind rack that you can think of, Honornite?
Yeah, one of the great aspects about WinRack is the fact that on a direct hit, uh, it will push them all the way to the back row, and that can be extremely useful in situations where you're, say, down on area, and you use a grab revenge to get your area back, but the opponent blocks it, and then they don't move anywhere. Oh no, what are you
Oh no.
gonna do? Wind rack them away, you know? Oh, my opponent has a very scary erase beast. It would be a shame if I beast it out and use wind rack.
It would be a shame, wouldn't it? Because
You
the
know,
wind.
140 damage is not a bad amount of damage, and then double to 280 on the race cross.
That's
That's really solid.
that's pretty good. It's pretty good, especially with the beast jump. Beast jumps are really strong. Now, that actually happens for those who don't know, and if you're watching this for the first time, when you're hitting Erase Cross that has a cursor based body element, If you hit them with a wind element, it decrosses him because wind is the natural trump card towards a erase cross or erase body or a cursor element, right? So that's why you'll get to decross on erase in that sense. So yeah, Windwrack is just the Swiss Army knife of the game. I feel like you have to play one. If you're in Falzar, you have to play one. You can even play more. It's just that good. And it's weird because it's on Star. You can throw it in everything. It's all if this was a different game, it's bannable. Like, it is that good. If this was a different game, I would consider banning this card because it's just too useful. But because of the way Battle Network works, it's not just a card game. It's also presenting the actions and fulfilling your goals in the middle of a tactical RPG element too. So it's not like you can't answer it or you can't dodge it. You can. You have the opportunities to do so. You can do something cheeky like drop a rock cube in front of you to block the gusts from a wind rack.
Surely never. No one would ever do that. That'd be too rude.
That would be too powerful, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be too powerful.
I agree. Like that's why no one would normally do that, right?
Oh wait, that just reminds me. Another useful thing about Windwrack, it pushes obstacles. Like if you direct hit the rock instead of just hitting the rock with the gust, if you direct hit it, you send it across the field for 200 damage.
True.
What doesn't Windwrack do?
It does everything apparently. Literally.
Yeah.
What's another good example of a staple chip? What about you on it? What do you think?
Well, you know what? We did a Windwrack, so let's just go with the counterpart, Life Aura. You know, one of the main reasons that people are heavily incentivized to put at least one Windwrack in every folder.
I feel like Life Aura. Okay, so first of all, what Life Aura does is it gives you a barrier that repels all damage that has a base damage value of 199 and lower. So anything under 199 or lower will not break this barrier. It will sustain itself indefinitely for about, I think it was 3,000 frames.
Correct.
3,000 frames. That's a long time. That's basically 3 minutes.
It's 3 slow gauge turns.
3 slow gauge turns. That's a long time to have a barrier, especially if you don't have answers for it, which means your opponent can do whatever they want against you while they feel nice and protected by that barrier. Now, the problem with that is Windwrack, right? There are answers to this barrier. And in fact, this chip is so influential to the game as a whole that you have to have multiple answers to Life Aura. It is that oppressive. It might not feel like it or look like it when we're in our tournaments and you see Life Aura come up and then you'll be like, oh, it got blown away. It can potentially be much worse than what you see, right? Like you see it go away and you feel relief, like, okay, I dealt with it, right? But what happens if your opponent reads your beast jump and they walk forward at the right time and your Windwrack does nothing? And now you're like, uh-oh. You're like, oh, he can do that? Like, oh no. What do I do? That's happened to me so many times. I think Symes has done that to me once or twice.
Yeah, what happened to me was I was fighting Salad, and she just decided to go Ultra Instinct and warp step past my Windwrack Gusts to keep her life for it. I'm like, okay.
Oh my goodness.
What do I do? So one of the things that makes Life Aura so fair, right? Despite the fact that it could be this oppressive, is that usually each version, Gregar and Falzar, has a natural resource, and what I call a natural resource is a cross or a beast form that you can use at any time going into the next couple of turns that has an option to deal with it, provided you're running the right things. So for Gregar players, this is why Attack Max to NCP is a staple, because it allows your Gregar beast forms, that is using a cross and going beast out at the same time for a beast cross. Those beast charges that you use, which is chip charging a null elemented chip, they usually do upwards of 200 or more damage, which will deal with a life orb. So at a moment's notice, you can just go into a beast out form and have a chip charge that you can use to get rid of this life orb. Except for Elect Cross. That is the only beast cross that cannot deal with life orb, because if it could, it would be busted. Like it would be gross.
I would say there's a few caveats to that, which is that with slash and especially charge, you're probably not going to be able to hit their life aura very easily.
Right.
And Heat Beast can actually break life aura anyways, even at attack 4, because with Heat, that's actually attack 5.
Right.
So it only really is a significant threshold actually for probably the best beast, Erase Beast.
I
It's
definitely
interesting that
agree.
I was gonna say it's interesting that you consider Erase Beast the best beast, because in my opinion, I've slowly been shifting towards considering Erase Beast even potentially stronger than Erase Beast because of the lockdown potential of cracking those panels and the CC.
So here's my thing, right? Before I know we're gonna go on a sad tangent, we're trying to talking about staples, but I feel like this is really important to talk about. Now, I definitely feel like Elect Beast, I have to agree with you, because cracking those panels in a format where people aren't running a lot of shoes is really good. It does paralysis, CC control, like you said. 190 damage is nothing to scoff at. And that poor, innocent baby Falzar player that decides to go into their Tomahawk cross because they think it's safe. And then you hit them with the Elect Beast charge, and they're just walking in and out of the hitboxes.
I've surely never walked into it 4 times in a row. What are you talking about?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Because why would you do that?
Exactly. I just press buttons and things happen. That's pretty
Oh
much
my
how I play the game.
gosh. Yeah, I remember we saw that happen on stream not too long ago. I don't remember. It was a newer player too. I just felt so bad. Dude, like he just went. I was like, no. I was like, stop, just stop moving, please, please. Oh man. You know what?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, so those are some great points, and at least for Gregor ones, I definitely say Elec is the second best one, although Heat's also up there. But the problem with Elec is, yeah, what do you do? Go circling back to Life Aura, when your opponent puts up that Life Aura, that completely walls out your Elec Beast. But even if they just have an anti-damage or invis, meanwhile, Erase Tail Arrows, they eat right through all of that. Unless the life aura is stacked with a holy panel to become a holy aura, the erase beast will break it. It will pierce invis and anti-damage, which elect beast cannot do.
That is true. That is
Those are
very
all fair
true.
points.
That is a
It could
very
also
fair
be
point.
that I'm biased against Erase Beast because I am notoriously bad at landing them somehow. I always time it right when it's like I think it's like a 3-frame window in the movement where if you let go of the Erase Beast, it'll miss. Not counting ice shenanigans. And I land those consistently. I am a machine at missing Erase Beast tails.
Or warp step, you know.
Yeah.
I feel that. I feel that. I almost feel cheated, like when I miss an erase tail arrow, because you're not supposed to be able to dodge that.
It's the worst when you charge like your Recup 300 and it whiffs. It feels so bad. Like I could have just used that.
I could have just been healthy. Like I could
Yeah.
have just been okay. Okay, wow.
I'm of the opinion that it humanly impossible to intentionally dodge an erased beast tail. I looked at the frame data and I don't think it's possible. So it's really just a guessing game and hoping that your opponent mistimes it.
One more staple that I actually wanted to talk about is in the Navi Cust. And I feel like this is something that goes without being said.
Super armor.
Is
Always
super
bring your shirt.
armor, bro. Super
Super.
armor. But it is just so important to have it. Now, what super armor does, the phrase that they give you in the game doesn't even do it quite the amount of justice, right? Because it just says you can't be pushed back. Okay, but what does that mean? So there's this animation where if MegaMan's hit with a powerful attack or something that can make him recoil, he reels his head backward and he enters this animation that you can just get combo to heaven, right? Now, if you're getting hit with things that don't flash, you are free eats. Anything they do is free. They can do whatever they want. They can hit you with the Super Vulcan, Wind Rax, or whatever, right? And you can't do nothing about it because you're recoiled. And you can't do anything in that moment, right? I don't even think you don't experience chip lock. I think you can still TFC if somebody tries to do a time freezing battleship against you, or rather a dimming battleship. That's what it's properly called. It's a dimming chip. If they use the dimming chip, you can still TFC. But if it's a non-dimming chip, you're getting comboed. Furthermore, it makes it impossible to land a charge shot. Now, this is especially worse. Actually, no, it's bad for both games, because if you're charging up your charge cross and you're trying to shoot Charlie, the beautiful dust golem from Dust Cross, across the screen, and you're trying to do some damage to their panels, and your opponent's constantly just hitting you with Aqua Cross charge shot, and you flitch, that's it. Like, you lost your charge shot, and that's time you're losing every time you get hit by that. And that charge shot is so fast, you're going to get hit by it most of the time. It's very frustrating. Or if you're playing BDT, that's a whole giga. You can't use it anymore because you don't got super armor. I'm smacking you every time you try to charge something, right? It is such an important chip. There is only one player that I've seen that has been wildly successful without it. And I bet you both know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I think we do. But
Yep.
that was. I think it's also worth noting that was back also in the VBA Link days, back when Mr. Thiago was going with the no super armor build.
That was back in the days when he played Gregor, right?
Yeah, and so I think everything Soul said about super armor is right. It is also worth noting, though, that as Falzar, like, if you've been uninstalled, you can get super armor back by going into Ground Cross, and Gregar actually gets a free super armor from its Beast Out.
So now what's balanced about Ground Cross is that it is a breaking elemental. So if you have more cursor chips in your folder, you can still get rid of their super armor. And cursor chips are so common that your opponent may likely have more answers for that. Or if they're playing Greyguard, they can just erase Beast it to sleep, right? So again, balanced, because they were thinking about making sure, like, yeah, you can get it back, but there has to be a cost. You have to play defense well if you want to keep it, right? And that's one of the things I love about this game. Now, you might think, okay, well, Gregor gets it in the form of Beast Out. It's only 3 turns. That's only 3 turns you get that. And it could be a very valuable 3 turns for sure. Like, every attack that you do as a Beast Out is going to be on point and you'll be able to do what you need to do. But after those 3 turns and you lose your Beast Out, no more armor, right? So either way, there is a timer set on how long you keep that super armor, depending on what your place or whatever your answers your opponent has, right? But it's definitely still 100% worth keeping super armor in almost every build you play. There's no reason not to run it. Almost like there's no reason not to run undershirt. Like, y'all can never convince me about Hub giving you undershirt. I don't want to hear it. I don't, bro. You bring your shirt. you bring your shirt.
Hub is technically bringing your shirt, It's just that it was in the laundry for a bit, so you just gotta let it dry for a bit, and then once it's
Ew.
all dried, you set it up to dry in the sun. You know,
Ew.
I mean,
No, I don't
you
want to
don't
hear
wash your
that.
shirts. You don't wash your shirts.
Yes, I wash my shirts and I wear them when they're nice and dry, effective immediately. I always have it. Yes. In
Yeah,
fact,
exactly.
shirts are so important that as I'm washing my shirt, I have another shirt in my closet to go wear.
Oh, okay.
You see, because I need my shirts.
Okay, you're a prepared man.
I'm a prepared man. That's what I like to be, is prepared. I don't want to forget it in the washer. You know what I'm saying? I want my shirt now. I need it now. What do
Fair
you think
enough.
about that, Symes? Do you think you always need undershirt?
No, not at all. I do think you always need super armor though.
Fair. I do think that's fair. Which is a different kind of shirt, right?
Yeah, exactly. Wearing some like big armor. Yeah, who
Yeah.
needs like a small shirt? You got your big super
Me
armor.
big strong.
Exactly.
We wear armor.
Although, I mean, I do still have undershirt in most of my custs, of course. It like including chunk and stuff, because I mean it's only one square, so you're almost always gonna have room for it. It's just so easy to fit.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
another point to it that I would like to talk about is that I know people will be like, oh, well, if you get hit by X attack and you only have 1 HP left anyway, your opponent can just buster you down and you'll lose no matter what. But the miracles I have seen, because that 1 HP is still there, bro. I it just happens so often. And it's just like, would you rather lose right now or delay it? like, what do you want? What more can you ask for? Do you lose right now, or do you want to keep playing the game till the actual last drop, bro? That's
Yeah, I
just how I
will
see
say
it.
that in patch cards, when you can also use it with a chip
Tip
or a cup,
heal. Yeah,
then undershirt is like a staple for sure.
I agree with
Mhm.
that. I definitely agree with that. Patch cards is a whole different beast. In fact, we might even have a segment of that talking about patch cards in the upcoming podcast. So definitely stay tuned to that. But with that, do you guys have any final thoughts?
No, I'm pretty much good on my end.
Yeah, I think I covered what I wanted to talk about staples. There's obviously plenty of other staples that people can explore, but I think we covered the ones that we talked about pretty well.
I think as we continue our series, we'll do another 2 or 3 or a big dive into like 1 or 2 other staples, and we'll just kind of just keep bringing it up so we get a good sense of it, right? And we'll have something to talk about every time. Now that being said,
Maybe we could do like area grab next time. That's a big one.
Ooh,
that's a big one.
yeah,
I definitely do want to talk about that for next time.
that one has a lot of nuances to it.
Yes, a lot. And panel grab too, because I think that one's just as important.
Yeah, may as well group them together.
With that being said, I think that's going to be it for today's podcast. Thank you for joining me, Honornite and Symes. I really appreciate you guys being here. But with that, we're going to close it out for today. But stay tuned. We will have more podcasts in the future that you can tune into and just vibe and listen to. I am your host, Solix Cross. Thank you for joining the N1GP Podcast.